Welcome to the P.T.S.D podcast with your host, comedian and military veteran, Bernard the Laugh Therapist Hines, where we discuss P.T.S.D, processing traumatic situations differently, and give you tools to help you overcome the stigma of seeking help. If you're ready to be inspired, then welcome to the Stigma-Free Zone. Here's your host, the Laugh Therapist himself, Bernard Hines.
What up, everybody? What up, everybody? It's your boy, Bernard Hines, a.k.a. the Laugh Therapist, and welcome to the P.T.S.D Process Traumatic Situations Differently podcast. Here, we try to inform, enlighten, and become advocates for one another as we learn more productive ways to process our trauma. Always remember, as a therapist, I'm not licensed, I'm just medicated. Welcome to the Stigma-Free Zone. Good evening, good afternoon. Wherever you're listening to this podcast, I want to thank you for being here today. Listen, y'all, we will be talking about a situation today. We'll be talking about suicide awareness, and we'll be talking about the out of darkness walk. Listen, if anytime you're feeling emotionally overwhelmed by today's content, please step away and regroup. I have a great guest on today, and right now I'm going to bring her to the stage, Miss Jenny Swinson. Put your hands together, everybody. Yes. How you doing, Miss Jenny?
Oh, I'm doing great this morning. How are you doing, Bernard?
I'm doing well. Thank you for being here on today. It is great having you. And you know, we both wore red today. We did not know.
I'll just tell them that was the plan.
It was the plan for us to wear red on today. Oh my goodness, y'all. We're going to jump right into this interview right now. Listen, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, you say a little bit. Well,
Just a little bit. I mean, you can go as far as you want.
Well, I'm first and foremost a homeschool mom to 3 wonderful children. My husband's a retired Navy veteran. I'm a veteran myself. I did 6 years.
All right.
In the nuke world, I was what we call an ELT, but it's a water chemistry, basically.
Okay.
And then, and so I volunteer to put on a little thing called the Out of the Darkness Walk right here in Suffolk.
Okay.
And we walk for suicide prevention in our community.
So you started to volunteer, and then you decided you wanted to be further and become like a co-chair?
That might be a little trait of mine, that I always see something and I feel like I can do it better. So I jump right to the top and take control. I believe that's a little bit of my Navy training.
Correct. That's what we do. They say take the hill, we take the whole hill and keep on going.
I should have been a chief. I don't know why they didn't make me a chief in 6 years.
Well, you're a homeschool mom, so you are a chief. I'm sure you are a chief.
You know, I never thought of it that way. I looked at school and decided I could do that better too.
That's right. You took about it. I can do this better.
Thank you for Jesus.
Yes. Listen, explain to us a little bit about out of darkness, the out of darkness walk, really.
So if I start at the top, we have the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, and they are out there doing fundraising so that we can have research-based evidence, some programs to get into schools and the places that they need to be so that we know how to talk about suicide safely and what to do. But that Out of the Darkness Walk is our fundraiser to make sure that we can get out there and do those things. So they're happening in all 50 states across America.
Okay.
And there's 15 of them alone here in Virginia. So we are one of 15 walks happening and 3 right here in Hampton Roads.
Wow. That is amazing. And yours is in Suffolk, correct?
Yep. We're in Suffolk at Bennett's Creek Park.
Wow. And for someone who's listening to this and thinking about, walk. Well, I can't walk that far. I can't walk that long. I have issues. How can they also support?
Well, there's actually 2 ways you could approach that. One, it can be a virtual walk. If you can't physically get to us, you can still register, have a team, and be a part of the community without actually being there. but it's not just about the walking aspect of it. It's about bringing the community together for me. So we have resources out there. As long as you can get to the field, you can watch us walk circles around that park. But we have ceremonies that are going on. And because of my military background, I brought something in called the tolling of the bells. It's a submariner ceremony.
Okay.
But we say the names of the people that we're out there walking for. So you come in, you sign them up, and we're going to have a moment of silence and speak that name out loud so that we can remember exactly why we're out there.
Wow. So in hindsight, suicide and mental health episodes were present throughout your military career?
Definitely there. I didn't recognize them while I was in the heat of it. I deployed twice to the Middle East, and it was kind of a day-to-day issue that other people were having. And I don't feel like it was addressed directly at that time during my service. So it's part of what's motivated me to get plugged in those communities, so that they know that there's resources, that they know that there's research and what to do in that situation. I want to say in 2014, I lost one of my shipmates. He was a very good friend of mine. I knew him through the military, and I was a little bit lost. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to think, how to react. And by the grace of God, I had the support system that I needed to get through that period of time. But I would have rather been equipped. And that's why I'm out here in the community saying, if you see something, say something. Let's talk about this. Because if you might be the only person to reach out to someone when you see some of those signs and symptoms, and it's okay.
Wow. So how important is volunteering?
We are completely volunteer run right here in Suffolk. Of course. And that make sure that every dollar raised is going back to the cause, so that we can get those grants to the doctors to do the medical research, that we can fund things like the 988 hotline so that they continue to be available. A huge plug there. If you are in a mental health crisis and you dial 988, you're going to get someone on the line right now to tell you you're loved, that you are okay, and to connect you with those resources that you might need in the worst moment of your life.
Wow. That's good. How many walks have you been involved?
Well, 2015, the year after I lost Jason, was the first walk for me. It was emotionally, I'll just say it was emotional. I had all of those bottled up feelings that I didn't have an outlet for. I didn't know how to honor him and remember him proudly, and that it was okay for me to do that. So when I got there, I just stood there and watched everything happen. And that's okay. We have a group called Free Mom Hugs coming out to our walk this next weekend on the 19th. So that if you're the one standing there, it's okay. You'll get a hug, or you can go cuddle some of the golden retrievers that we have coming at the cuddle station, that kind of thing, to process some of those emotions that you might not have let out before.
Correct. And I know me as a person who've lost someone from suicide, I know a lot of people be like, I don't want to relive the trauma. I don't want to relive. But when you're with a group of people and it's all about positivity and it's all about, as you said, getting out those feelings that you really thought you have gotten out of. Because sometimes when a person close to you, and I'm speaking for myself, does do suicide or commit suicide, you kind of blame yourself. What did I do? Why, what could I have done? What could I have done this? So I truly believe the best way to live a person's life after that is to show positivity for that. How do you feel about that?
Definitely. There's always the questions. What didn't I do? What could I have said? But take that, harness it, and do different. Hopefully there won't be a next time. But I know some of the things to say. And through my training with the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, which is free, there are online resources that you can sign up for, like Talk Saves Lives or More Than Sad. And they talk through some of those scenarios, what to look for and what to say. But you brought up a good point when you were talking about celebrating too, because the walk isn't just about that remembrance, which is wonderful, but we have survivors. There are survivors with a story to tell, and something to celebrate because
Correct.
we are making a difference in the community. So it's a very lovely marriage of those two things coming together, that there's hope for those families that have lost someone, that they can provide just a fraction of a difference for someone else's family.
Wow, that's awesome. Listen, y'all, we talking to Miss Jenny Swinson. She's one of the coordinators for the Out of Darkness Walk in Suffolk, Virginia on October the 19th. What about the stigma surrounding seeking help? How are you trying to break that down?
Well, some of you might have noticed this before, but just the word suicide, you can see the facial expressions change sometimes when you bring that up, because some people just aren't willing to talk about it. And if they have experienced loss from it, I've met countless people that have told me this happened in my family and I've never told anyone.
Wow.
And that is a part of the stigma. By hiding that truth and bringing it to the surface. I think the pandemic had a little bit of a role in letting all of us talk about our mental health a little bit more, because we were just in a different situation than some of us had ever been in.
Correct.
And I want to grasp that and continue that conversation, because that is the stigma, that if you're suffering, you're not comfortable talking to somebody else. And that's what I want to break down so that we can have those conversations and connect people with the help that they need.
Correct. That is one of my biggest platforms that I try to let folks know. Hey, if you want to see stigma, I'll be stigma. If you want to, this is what stigma looks like. Still doing the work, still talking to people, still want to educate, still want to do awareness, because when people want to label folks, or someone wants to go get help, and you hear somebody be like, man, what you gonna get help for? You ain't crazy. Boom, that shuts them down.
Exactly, to that. We are not here to be bullies to each other. We're here to build each other up. And that is exactly what the world needs.
Wow. Of course, I'm still going over some of your bios. Very outstanding. You said they have, AFSP has 4 pillars of outreach, because y'all do fundraising. Everything is through fundraising, correct?
That's right.
Everything is doing fundraising. And I know a lot of people say, well, what are they raising funds for? I know you said a little bit earlier, but where does the money go to? Listen, just give. But what are the 4 pillars that you're going?
Yeah, I should point out, I do not get paid for one bit of what I do. When we get up there, we get awesome speakers like the Laughs Therapist to come out and entertain our group of people in the audience. But it's from the speakers to the DJ to the photographer and the volunteers there on the ground. This is all put on by as a community effort for those lost survivors to gather. But as far as where the money goes, those 4 pillars that you mentioned, the first one's going to be research, that we are the leading private funder outside of the government funds for suicide prevention research. So we give grants to doctors and universities to figure out why we have mental health crisis. Correct. What is the best way to respond to that? The next one's going to be education, that we provide evidence-based research for those education programs.
Please say that again. Evidence-based
research.
Yes.
So that we can get that in the places that it needs to be, whether it's school, emergency response services, because that law enforcement that is dealing with this as boots on the ground, they have their own mental health trauma to deal with on top of that. So we want programs that are going to help them along the way. So, and then in the workplaces, we have sponsors, businesses that come in and sponsor our walk, like QVC or Rivers Casino, but we also provide those trainings that Talk Saves Lives to their employees so that they can go and have a safe workplace environment that talks about suicide.
Correct.
And advocates for that.
So that third one, we'll stick on that third one. It has to be in the workplace. It has to be where people can feel comfortable, because there's nothing like you at work one day and then next day the person doesn't show up, doesn't call in, hasn't called in, hasn't checked in anybody. And you were like, man, what happened? And then you find out what happened. You be like, man, but I was sitting right next to them. I didn't know. So having those resources at the job to where people feel comfortable knowing that I can go, and then there's no stigma related to it, like, well, you're gonna lose your job because you just went and sought help.
Well, and think about it. That's where some of these people are spending a majority of their time, 8-10 hours a day, and nothing guarantees they have anyone at home looking out for them.
Correct.
So that person you're sitting next to at work, you might very well be the only person to reach out to them and ask them, are you okay?
Correct.
Do you need to talk to someone? So the proper training in those workplaces is integral.
Awesome.
So we were talking about fundraising. That third pillar is advocacy. We get out there in front of legislation that is going to help communities put the right laws into place. We have Survivor Day at the Capitol, where they just sit down at the Capitol in Virginia and listen to us, what we have going down on the ground.
Okay.
And then the law support services, which is one of the things that we're talking about right now with the Out of the Darkness Walk, but also in November, every Saturday before Thanksgiving is it's ISOSL Day, International Survivors of Suicide Loss Day. And you go out and there's resources for those survivors.
Wow. It is amazing that the work that y'all do, because suicide was so hush-hush.
That's what I grew up with.
Yes, it was so hush-hush. And if you thought about it, if you had thoughts, if you did that, you couldn't tell anybody, because what is wrong with you thinking about doing this? But coming from a person who thought it, who was 24 hours away from doing it, who had intentions, knew exactly what was going to do, I could care less what folks say now, because I am here. And that's what we want other people to know. There are resources for you to be healed.
Yes, yes. And you are loved and you are needed.
Correct. So what happens at an Out of Darkness Walk?
So first and foremost, we have teams. No one walks alone. You can register all by yourself and you get there, but we are walking all together around the laps of the park, for Suffolk's instance. But you're going to have teams, and you're going to get up there. If you raised over $150, you're going to get a t-shirt as soon as you arrive. We wear buttons that say, I am walking for myself, or everyone who's ever suffered, that kind of thing, or the name of the person that you're walking for. There's beads, which I'll talk about that in a minute, because that is personally one of my favorite aspects of the walk.
Okay.
But we all wear beads while we're out there. But we're going to have community resources presence. I've mentioned it a few times, but it's going to be local hospitals, therapists, psychologists. The VA will be out there, and military resources. So a way to connect them with the people who are right there in that community needing that.
That's good. That is good.
And then, of course, we'll be on the stage. We'll have some of the local sheriff. We'll have the speaker. We talk about how much money we've raised, but we also talk about what has changed in the mental health community in the last year, some of our victories that we have achieved.
Wow. And you said Suffolk specifically is a bit of a military vibe, correct?
It is. We have 3 sister walks in Hampton Roads, Virginia Beach, Virginia Peninsula, and then me out here in Suffolk. And because of my military background and my passion for getting those resources to the soldiers and sailors, we bring out the white boots that are painted for soldier and sailor suicide. We can leave notes to those families that those boots are making a difference in our community. And then that tolling of the bells ceremony that I talked about earlier, that is very specific to our walk. And of course, I get some of those military members out there to park cars and get exposure, because they go back to their commands and talk about what they saw. And it's starting that conversation and breaking the stigma at the end of the day.
Wow. And this is not just, I like when you said it's going to be resources, so many resources out there. And I tell people, resources to me is like having on a rucksack, and you got so many resources in there. I might not need it right now, but if I do need it, it's right here in the rucksack. And you're always able to let other people know where they can go and get the resources, because we always want to be prepared.
That's that community mindedness. I might not need it now, but I know who to call or who you need to call when the time comes. But I also know who showed up for me as
Correct.
far as this is where my passion is. And I knew who came out to support us.
Wow. So in putting this walk together, I know it's not you just thought about it this weekend and hey, let's do it next weekend. How was the process?
Oh, it's a long one. We start in January. We go to conference. I meet with all 15 other co-chairs. So we brainstorm what works, what doesn't work. I start soliciting sponsors who's going to come out and help us make this event a success. But those volunteers are so important that you're willing to go out and table these local events. I have learned so much through that process that people aren't sitting at those tables for their own mental health. They're sitting there so we can reach you. And it's not easy. I'm not going to lie and say that any part of this is easy, but it's fun and it's rewarding. So
Correct.
Volunteering, you will make a difference, and there is a place for you.
Correct. And so just so y'all know, I will be speaking and I am volunteering. Okay. So I'm volunteering my services for awesome cause that really needs to be talked about more. Now, I know you said earlier about the beads.
Yes.
Let's get back to the beads. Now, what are the beads that people will be wearing around their necks?
So we have 10 colors that are represented, and the color of the beads you're wearing represents why you're walking. It's kind of like a silent story as you walk around. And we have blue beads for supporting the cause. Purple beads mean you lost a friend or relative, but some of those other beads really speak to you. If you're wearing white beads, it means you lost a child to suicide. If you're wearing red beads, it means you lost your spouse to suicide. And those are some very sensitive situations and stories that people might not be ready to talk about, and that's okay. But you can connect with them, because if you are out there wearing orange beads because you lost a sibling, every other person walking around there wearing orange beads understands the grief that you are processing in that day. So I'm passionate about spreading the word and understanding how that whole representation works before you get there.
Wow. Is something about lived experience that you can relate to someone who's also had that same lived experience?
For sure. And I'm out there. I didn't even mention wearing the silver beads. That is for military or law enforcement survivors. So you and I, Bernard, are going to be out there wearing those silver beads to support.
Yeah, I don't know if you can wear multiple beads.
You can wear multiple beads. You're going to see people wearing lots of colors out there. And there will be a board to tell you exactly what colors you want to choose from. And we are going to have literally thousands of beads in boxes for you to choose from, so you can wear those.
Wow. And this before we end, I'm going to show the links and give people the links of where they can, go and register, my website, your website, where they can just go and register and just, find out more and be able to walk this weekend coming up, because, the 19th is a Saturday, praying for great weather, and we can get out there and we can do what we have to do. I know my faith has played a part in what I do. You know what I'm saying? So how has your faith played a part in what you do?
Well, I was just talking to a friend of mine about this the other day, and there is a prayer I have been praying since I started this process, because we talked about volunteering, and some of that can be exhausting and defeating. And it is, God, open the doors that need to be open and just shut the doors that need to be shut, so that and it might be selfishness, but so I'm not running in circles.
Correct.
And I am making a difference to the people who need to hear me, and not wasting my time on people that don't have an interest in supporting the cause. Because sometimes those no's are hard to hear, but those yeses are so rewarding.
Very.
And I pray that God is guiding my steps throughout this process.
That's good. Well, you have my prayers. You have my prayers. And I'm going to put up the website. This is the website right here. Excuse me, www.afsp.org/ Suffolk. Okay, for those who are listening on the podcast, it's www.afsp.org/Suffolk. And what on that website, what would they be able to do?
Through that website, you're going to be able to register to walk. You can donate directly to our efforts. You're going to find my phone number and email. So if you have any questions, I'm yours. Give me a call, email me. I'll answer your questions pretty much any time of the day during this season. And you're going to see who our sponsors are. I told you I'm community minded. You're going to see who has supported us so that we as a community can support them back for their efforts and putting their name on this.
Wow. That if if anyone is listening right now and they're thinking, I don't know, I don't feel like I want to do this. I'm not there yet. I know it's still fresh. What would you say to that person?
I would, me personally, I'm the type of friend that I'm gonna push you. I'm gonna say, come out, just be a spectator, join the walk, see what happens, see if it's something for you. You might like it, you might not like it. Hopefully we have the good weather and you enjoy a nice day at the park. Mm-hmm. But if you aren't ready, do your research, look it up online, find some videos. Hopefully you'll get something that encourages you to get involved with the foundation.
Correct. And I like that AFSP does not provide emergency response services. So if for some reason you are feeling overwhelmed or you feel like you at your instead of going to that website and looking for someone to speak to you right then, they need to go and dial what?
988. Thank you so much for pointing that out. We might have resources and we might fund the backing of 988, but if you are in a mental health crisis, an emergency, call 988. Reach out to a friend or family, loved one, if you're comfortable doing that, or you can text talk to 741-741.
That is great. And you can also, if you want to volunteer, you can go right here too. It's so much you can do, but the main one is the Suffolk one, and we're going to have a great time. It's going to be I know it's going to be very uplifting because I know the good Lord has given me laughter, and not everything is a laughing moment, but there is some way to make not humor, but make talking about a subject like this plausible for people to still smile. And that's what I'm looking for. I'm not looking to make you belly laugh and fall. No, just smile. If I can just get you to smile, because we will be remembering the life of family members and friends and how they made us feel.
That's right. And I'm going to have photographers out there to capture that smile so we can get together and remember and join and celebrate those victories.
Well, thank you, Miss Jenny, for being on with me today. It has been a great having you. It really has. And again, as you can see, it's scrolling at the bottom. But if you're on the podcast, October the 19th from 10 a.m. until just afternoon at Bennett's Creek Park in North Suffolk.
That's right. Thank you so much, Bernard, for your support, for your encouragement, for your prayers, just everything you have added to this walk. I think we are going to have a wonderful time this year.
Thank you. Again, Ms. Jenny Swinson, listen, y'all, you have now been released from the stigma-free zone. Have a great day.
Thanks. You